Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, which means it's time for Startup Convo. So today we're talking a little bit about how to get a business started. Once again, my name is Daniel McCrane. I'm the Chief Growth Strategist with McCrane Associates, and I work with small business owners to implement strategies that generate tens of thousands of dollars of revenue and profit without spending additional money on marketing or advertising. And lately, I've been getting a lot of questions about how to start a business, things that you need to know, things that you need to learn to get your business started. And so I wanted to just take some time and have a conversation about how to start a business. Now, a lot of the work that I do with business owners tends to work best when the business has been running for a while. It's been working for a while and starting to experience a little bit of success and some growth. That's where the things that I do actually work best. Um, I, I can help people who are trying to start a business, but that's certainly not my expertise. That's not where a lot of my work is done best. However, I don't want people who are looking at me for business assistance and saying, well, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get help as you're trying to get your business started. I want to make sure that you get some resources. You've got some places you can go. You've got things you can look at. I don't want to leave you hanging. I want to help you get your business started. We know that the statistics to start a business are pretty dismal. If you read this research report or that research report, it can be as many as 9 out of 10 businesses failing within the first year that they're trying to get started, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty sad. So I don't want you to be a victim of that. So as we're going through today, this is live. So ask me any questions that you have. I've got a topic I'm going to talk about today. I've got some things that I'm going to share. But if you stumble across this video and you want to ask any questions live, please feel free to do that. I'll be able to see your comments right here on the screen. I'll be able to answer your questions live. And if I don't know the answer right away, then one thing I promise is that I will get an answer for you. And I'll respond in comments down below this video. So that way everyone who finds this video can learn from your question too. That's the whole point of this. I want this whole conversation to be something that everyone can benefit from, everyone can learn from. So feel free to ask your questions, any question you want, and let's try to educate everyone on how to get a business started. All right, so I think that's enough introduction there. So I do have a topic that I want to talk about a little bit today. And I know that I've talked a little bit about making mistakes already, about different mistakes that people can make in their business as they're trying to get a business up and running. I've got some additional ideas that came to mind, though, about mistakes that people can make in their business. So when you first get started in your business, you may not realize that there are mistakes that can be made at any stage of growth in your business. And those mistakes, regardless of when you make them, sometimes those mistakes may take months or even a couple of years before you finally see the full impact of those mistakes in your business. So I want to point out a few of those kind of mistakes right now. So as you're getting your business started, you don't begin to bake those mistakes into your business from the get-go, from the beginning. And these mistakes really are not just limited to a new business, but these could be mistakes that even successful businesses can make in their business that would cause a problem. And it can cause them to lose a lot of money and possibly even wasted time in the process. And a lot of times when it comes down to operations and costs and expenses, time is money when we're talking about trying to make a profit in your business. So these mistakes I'm going to share with you may seem more aimed at service type companies. They can apply to other types of businesses as well. So I'll give you a few examples also as we take a look at some of these mistakes. One mistake that a lot of times gets made is underestimating the project or the amount of time it's going to take to provide the service to the customer. And this is a big one, especially as you're just getting started. You may not be fully aware yet of what your process is for managing the project or providing the service. You may have an idea in mind. Until you get to working with this client, though, you may not be real clear about how long that project is going to take. So this can relate to service companies. This could also relate to companies that sell a product as well. But certainly this is the service company's bread and butter. This is core to what you do as a service-based business. You need to be able to accurately project how long it's going to take you to complete a project for a client. And if you don't estimate that time and effort required to perform each of the services that your business offers, then you could really lose out, and there's very little that you can do about it except to learn from it and try to make some adjustments as you go forward. So the best way to estimate time required to do the job yourself is to try to watch yourself. If you could videotape yourself doing something, maybe, and then figure out how long that's going to take. If you've got a top employee who knows how to get it done, observe them and figure out how long it takes them to complete the task. And so then from there, once you figure out what the amount of time is going to be to get something done, then you can start to more accurately figure out how to forecast the cost to get something done. So that way you can provide a better quote. You'll know what your bid is going to be for that job. So not knowing, starting to get into the next one there a little bit. But at this time, I wanted to stop again and say, anyone who's coming across this video right now, I am live right now, so I want to let you know, feel free to ask me any questions. Just type questions in the comments down below. Those will pop up here on my screen, and I'll be able to respond to those. I am monitoring those comments and those questions. And again, if you stumble across this video after the fact, feel free, again, to still put comments and questions down below. I'll still get notified when those questions come in, and I can respond to your questions. All right, so another mistake that sometimes gets made is not knowing your company numbers and setting your prices too low. Now, notice that I'm using the word your. So it's a common mistake to take a look at your competitors' fees and then try to use that as a gauge for your pricing without actually knowing why your competitor is using those numbers. So think about this for a little bit. What if you were to take your competitor's price, cut it by 10%, and then just start selling? You are beginning to bake in some problems into your business already. Let's say, what if your competitor has really bad pricing structure to begin with, and maybe they're even barely making money or possibly even losing money. So now you've got a problem because you're taking their money-losing pricing structure and you're cutting that even by less, and now you are starting to cut into your own possible profit margins. Now, that would be a situation where maybe that other competitor that you're looking at doesn't know their own numbers. So they are doing a really bad job of estimating their own projects and their own services. And now you've just taken the mistake that they're making and you've put that mistake into your own business. Another scenario where that could happen is if you're going up against a larger competitor, maybe they can take a loss on a project because they've got profit margin somewhere else that they've got room to play with. So they're able to underbid and take a loss in order to get the business. So now you take their low price, which they have priced purposely as a loss leader in order to bring the business in, and now you've brought that into your business, and now you have severely affected your ability to make a profit on a project. So you don't want to do that. Another thing that you want to take a look at is you may not have the same vendor relationships and contracts and negotiations in place. So your costs may end up being greater than your competitors. So that's going to affect your profit margin. So it is a good idea to know what your competitor's pricing structure is and use that as a starting point, but it's not a good idea to base your whole pricing strategy on your competitor's pricing structure. Also, different market sectors have their own variables as far as costs go. And you need to be aware of what those costs are for your project or your product pricing. And what you end up paying for a product and what you're going to sell it for is not the only cost that you need to have in your head when you're pricing your products or your projects. Either one here now, if we're talking about a retail store. So you also need to know your whole expense column. What else goes into that? So not only just cost of goods or anything else that goes into pricing that makes up your gross profit margin, but also what's all the overhead and everything else down below the line that fits into your net profit costs. So what's your overhead? What's your labor? Anything else? Insurance costs? Anything else that's part of your expense column? So could be quality factors that need to be taken into account. So when you do things maybe at a standard service rate, or if you have standard product features, job site etiquette, in-store service warranties, all those kinds of things need to be factored into your pricing. So it's very important that you figure out what your pricing structure needs to be. One of the things that I work with my clients on is understanding their profit and loss statement. And you can do a whole profit and loss statement. And this is what I'm talking about, your expenses or your income minus your expenses. And so that's where you get to your gross profit margin, your net profit margin. You can do a profit and loss statement or an income and expense report for your entire business. You can also create a small one just for bidding a project, just for a certain service, or just for a certain project that you're working on. So when you're trying to figure out pricing structure, work that up. Figure out what a good profit and loss statement would look like for this particular project that you're about to bid. So figure out what's the percentage of your overhead expenses that will need to be included in this project. So your labor, your rent, your insurance, your internet and other utilities that you have. Figure out an appropriate percentage of all of those expenses to include, and then start working backwards on this. Then figure out what could possibly be the cost of goods sold or anything else that might go into your gross profit margin. And then figure out, okay, so at the very bottom, what is the minimum profit that I want to be able to make on this project? And you can do all of that math backwards and figure out then, okay, so this is my top line. This is the revenue I want to bring in from either this service or this project that I'm going to bid on. And that's how you can arrive at a bid price for the project. So that's one tip that you can do. That's one tool. All right. So let's see, other things. Another mistake would be not charging for your time and your costs. And this is a common mistake that a lot of business owners make, and they'll admit they make it. So let's say that you're running some kind of a service company, and you can't just undercut your competitor's price to acquire the job. Let's say you're in an industry where there's some compliance regulations or some legal restrictions, so you can't do something like that. But you decide that you want to do something else to try to acquire that business. So, oh no, uh-oh, lost my connection. Somebody's watching. Uh-oh. Well, hopefully this is being recorded and it's going to go out to Facebook and to YouTube. So hopefully you'll still be able to watch this video later on. But thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. I'm just going to keep rolling, and worst case scenario, I think I've got this recorded here so I can upload a video if I have to. All right, so let's see, where was I? About undercutting. So you can't come in with a lower price than your competitors, but you want to make sure that you try to get the business. And so a lot of times you'll purposely choose not to charge for something, and then you end up doing work. You end up giving hours, and you don't get paid for it. Here's another way that gets done sometimes. Stores will do this. Retail stores may do this sometimes. They may put more people out on the floor in the store for better customer service, but they don't end up adjusting their prices to account for the extra labor that they have just deployed. So doing things like this can cost you more money, and if your competitors are not doing them, then you end up losing out a little bit. It just eats into your profitability. That's the hardest part there. Okay, so let's see. As a business owner, you need to develop this belief, if you don't have it already, that you are providing your clients something that is extremely worthwhile to your customer, and you deserve to be paid for it. So if you get a chance to explain why your prices are higher, then take that opportunity and make sure that you provide that explanation. Are you providing better value? Are you providing better service? Whatever that is, make sure that you take the opportunity to explain that anytime you can. And if your clients or your customers perhaps don't like the fact that you include things that others charge extra for, or if you treat them better, then it's very likely those potential customers are price shoppers only, and they're not going to be good long-term customers for you anyway. So this is the great time. This is the perfect time just to let them go down the street and find the cheaper option so that you don't have headache customers that you have to deal with later. All right, not getting paid fast enough is another one that can cause some problems. It causes problems for cash flow. If you have to float that time period there for a little bit, you've still got your expenses going on. You've still got payroll you have to make, because if you don't pay your employees, they're not going to stick around very long to help you out. But if you've got 2 weeks or even a month, if you allow somebody 30 days, 60 days, 90 days before they have to pay their bill, but you have to pay your employees during that time, that can create some huge cash flow problems for you. Now, as long as you are bringing in enough money to pay the bills, then that problem can easily be solved. You could even prevent it, or you could manage around it if you needed to. But one of the most important things that you have to do, especially as a startup, is you have to bill your customers very promptly. So the moment that service is provided, the moment that the project is done, or at the toll gates that you have, the milestones in your project, make sure that you bill right away. Don't get so bogged down in your business thinking, oh, but I'm too busy. I have to take care of the customers. I have to do all this other stuff. No, billing is a very important task that you need to be on top of right away. And if you have to get a bookkeeper to do that invoicing for you, then get it done. But get that invoicing out the door. After all, this is the whole reason you're in business, is to get paid. I know that's not a popular opinion. I know there are people out there who don't think that way, but that is the whole reason to start a business, is to make money. And that is not something to be ashamed of. So this can come about if you fail to have solid systems and procedures in place. That's one thing that can lead to lack of billing. Now, that's another reason, or another mistake that you can make in your business, is if you don't have a good working system, a good working process or procedures to make sure that things are going to get done. You should have processes, documented processes for your lead generation. How do you find new customers? You should have documented how those people become customers of yours. You should document a process to increase the number of transactions with each of your customers. You should document all of your internal operations. How do you fulfill the promises that you've made to customers? How do you ship things to customers if you need to do that? So when you don't have procedures and systems in place for things like billing, collections, payroll, the list goes on, interviewing, hiring, job responsibilities, who's doing what, manufacturing, operating the equipment, maintaining the equipment and inventory. I mean, on and on and on. All of these procedures are there to help your business run more smoothly and to reduce expenses as well. It can reduce expenses because when everyone knows exactly what to do, they're looking at the list right here, then you've got the perfect list. You've already figured out we do steps 1 through 10, and we do it this way every time, and this is the most efficient way that we have found to get this done. So when everyone is doing it that way, following the procedure, then that's going to save you time, which then, as I said, when you're a startup, this will also end up saving money for you as well. All right, the procedures are also good for training. When you bring in new people, look, if you haven't figured this out already, hiring new people, bringing new people into the business, teaching them how to do the job, these are all very expensive and time-intensive things that happen inside of your business. So having these procedures in place will speed up the training time for your business. So this is another critical mistake that gets made in business when you're just running along, you're trying to do things day to day, trying to get everything done. You come up with a great way to do it. You teach the new person how to do it, and then you say, okay, you're good, and you just leave them, and that's it. You're on to the next thing. They start doing their job. Nobody takes the time to actually document what just happened there. So 10 minutes just to write out step 1 through 10 would be so beneficial to your business. All right, here's another mistake sometimes that gets made. And this is one I hear even for businesses that have been in existence for a long time. Spending too much advertising money without tracking the results. Now, we all know this. I think this is one of the reasons why small business owners get so frustrated with advertising and marketing. Because someone comes along and says to them, oh, we can do that Facebook ad for you. Oh, we can do that television ad for you. Oh, we can, whatever it is. And so the business owner says, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I know I need to advertise. I've got to get my name out there. And so they spend a lot of money. But then this so-called expert who is trying to help them with their advertising doesn't build in what I refer to as direct response marketing, or the business owner themselves doesn't have a system in place to track the new leads that come from the advertising they just paid for. So a really key thing here is to make sure that you've got some kind of a tracking system in place, even if it's a spreadsheet, even if it's a tick sheet next to the register in your store. When someone comes into your store and you ask them, how did you hear about us? What brought you in today? If they say, oh, I heard that ad on the radio, tick. Whoever is at the cash register needs to put a check mark somewhere. You have to capture that information so you know when your advertising is working. So developing those tracking systems is really, really important. And, sometimes it may sound like I'm too hard on advertising people, and that's not always really the case. There are two sides to that equation, right? You've got to put out the advertising, and there are people who are experts at doing that. At the same time, though, there's a responsibility on the small business owner, and that's for you to keep track of the new leads, the new customers who are coming your way as a result of your marketing and your advertising. All right, spreading yourself too thin is another classic mistake. Every entrepreneur does this. Every business owner does this. You're the one trying to start the business. And as you're getting started, you are doing everything yourself. You may be the only person in your business. As you start to bring more people into your business to help out, though, you need to let go of some of those things you were doing and let those people take over. The key is to figure out, when do you reach that tipping point where you are so overwhelmed because you are wearing too many hats and you cannot grow the business any further because you are the bottleneck. But also, then how can you afford to bring in the next person so they can take over and so they can help out? And I know that's a tipping point, and I know that that's a point of anxiety for a lot of small business owners. I do need to let you know, though, that if you wait too long to bring someone in, that can completely kill your company. You almost have to take a step of faith and say, all right, I know we may end up going a little negative. I know this may end up eating into my salary a little bit, but I have got to get an operations manager here, somebody who can handle all of that stuff while I continue to focus on sales. Or maybe you say, okay, no, I've got to get a salesperson here because I've got to get an expert who knows how to do sales while I continue to take care of the customers. Whatever it is, but you almost really have to take that step of faith, knowing that you will be more efficient by bringing on that extra person. So there are three things that people think they can take on themselves, but are usually best to find an expert in these areas. And I'm sure you're doing this already in your startup. I'm sure you're not trying to take these on. And let this be a warning to you, don't ever try to take these on. That would be legal issues, accounting, and bookkeeping would be something where you want to have an expert, and possibly even some of the daily operations might be some areas where you may not be the expert. But some of those things to stay away from. Stay away from the legal things unless you are already, unless you're a lawyer. Stay away from the accounting and bookkeeping unless you are an accountant or a bookkeeper and you know how to do those things. And then if you can find someone else to do daily operations for you so you can continue to focus on that vision and building the company, that's all the better. So watch out for these problems. That's always a good idea. Every quarter, as you come to the end of a quarter, we're going to be coming up on the end of a quarter here in a couple of weeks. That's a good time to take stock of your business. Make sure you're not making these mistakes. So make sure you take time, make the time somehow, carve out some time to kind of do a little overview of your business and see if you've got these mistakes going on in your business. So that's what I've got for you today. That's what I wanted to share with you today. And again, I just want to say, if you stumble across this video later and you've got questions, could be about anything, doesn't have to be about this topic, but any questions you have about starting a business, feel free to leave a comment. That'll notify me, and then I can reach out to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. All right, well, with that, everyone, I am going to go ahead and sign off for today. Tune in next week on Wednesday, and we'll do another startup convo. Otherwise, watch for any of my other live videos as well. Until then, everyone, have a great day, and to your success.